Welcome to the Pit Stop Ranch, where we do the right thing every time. Sometimes. Eventually. Third time's the charm. Anyway, a few months back, we replaced this panel here on the other side. This panel here looks solid, looked good. And we were just gonna leave it, run it, paint it. So we got a little carried away with sanding and discovered that it's almost as much Bondo as it is steel. Got a rust coming through there. This body line is completely foobarred. So we decided to do the right thing and build it back up with Bondo. And then too much was taken off. And then we built it up with Bondo again. And again, even more was taken off. So, hang our head in shame. Went ahead and went to LMC and ordered the part. Here it is. Replacement panel. Goes on just like that. Now, like the other side, plan's pretty straightforward. We're going to cut along here, and along here, and then that way, and then match it up that, and that way these complex shapes and trying to fish it underneath these other panels isn't going to be an issue. And then that'll get rid of a bunch of like minor rot here and there, and be able to get up underneath here. And, yeah, that feels pretty good under here. Yeah, all this under here feels pretty good. Maybe a little wavy, but no rot. So, be able to get rid of a lot of problems from this messed up fender. So, or cowl panel. So, I'll get into it, and once again, I'll take you for the ride, but this time maybe I'll explain to you what I'm thinking, what I'm doing. The thing about these patch panels is you got to cut out just what you're going to want to use. You don't have to use the whole thing, otherwise you'll end up hacking up a lot more than you need. And you want to, when you're welding them back together, one, you want the datum to go to, but then also two, you want to weld at the edges, not across a big span here. You want to weld along the edges and not in a flat, relatively flat spot like that. All right, there are many ways to remove lead from a solder joint. The other side, I just took a wire wheel on the grinder and went to town and mechanically removed it. Now the disadvantage of that is it threw up a hell of a lot of lead dust up, and let's face it, that's actually an environmental no-no. So, old school way of doing it. Use heat, melt it out. Alright, what I'm trying to do is expose where the pinch welds are, and they kind of show up pretty good by going over the sander. You can see a bunch where the pinch welds are. After we identify the locations, the low spots where the spot welds are, go into the drill and drill out all the identified spots. Now I don't drill all the way through, I try not to drill all the way through. And I use a 3/8 bit. Now they make actual spot weld cutting bits that go in there. Maybe someday I'll actually spring for one, but this works pretty good too. And you got to rock it around a little bit. This particular bit looks like it's a little bit on the dull side because I'm leaning into it pretty hard. Next, I will go ahead and cut the louvers out of the old panel so that I can lay the new panel flush against it. The louvers on the new panel and the old panel, of course, don't line up because they're different. And the old panel actual louvers stuck out more, so I had to cut them off. Here I'm test fitting the new panel and clamping it on so that I can see where everything lines up. And I am then trimming where I noticed the new panel sticks out a little bit too far, and trimming it down a little bit on in situ on the vehicle. I'm happy with its location and alignment. Go ahead and scribe it into the old panel, create a nice clear mark on it so I know where to cut the old panel free. And here I am cutting it off. Now I cut just inside the line so that it's always easier to take more off than to put stuff back in. Though the nice thing about steel is putting back in material is not that difficult of a job, but still cut wide, and then we can grind up to the line or just past the line as we need to. Makes for a closer fit. Fun part of actually peeling it off. It's sometimes need to go in and cut a little more with the drill. Sometimes it's little kisses with the death wheel, as you can see me doing there. Now it's busy trying to work the last little bit off, little trimming, knocking it loose. So I get a nice clean, get it out there completely. Here I'm busy inspecting the 70 years of accumulated crud in there, and then also noticing that it's a little bit out of shape. There was clearly a minor front end collision that caused a little bit of bowing in both in the panels. That'll need to be straightened out. Now I'm busy removing the crud and the big rust flakes off. Now they weren't protected to begin with, but it survived very well. Here I am busy straightening out that flux in there, and then spraying everything in there down really good with rust converter. Rust, it's just a spray product. Here I'll quickly show you what it actual can looks like in a moment, but it chemically converts the iron oxide from red iron oxide to black iron oxide, which creates a protective covering. Here's the stuff we actually use. We just bought it at the local parts store. It's not expensive and easily to do. While that was drying, I went ahead and drilled my spot welds, or what I'm gonna plugs, or the holes that I'm gonna do replace the pinch welds with. When they originally did the pinch welds, it was some guy with a pinch weld machine, and he went and just did, so many pinch welds, and it wasn't very precise. Now I like to do them next to the holes where the bolts for the fenders go through. and a few along both the top and bottom edges, using a step bit to do it. Here, busy test fitting it. Now this is a process. You stick it on there, line it up, check it, take it off, grind on it, put it back on. It's actually a pretty tedious process that I ain't going to bore you with, but it's a really repetitive, time-consuming process of getting it on, checking it, taking it off, nibbling on it a little bit, grinding on it a little bit, put it back on, lather, rinse, repeat. Now, with the rust converter dry, I went in and hit it with some Eastwood Chassis Black because I had a can of it. It's durable, epoxy-based paint. It's quite a bit of overkill if you consider that it was untreated steel for 70 years and only a minor accumulation of surface rust. I guess that's the advantage of California vehicles. And now that I'm happy with the fitment, I am tack welding the panel on, working my way around. Now, one of the things I did this time that I didn't do last time was I cut the new panel so in such a way that I'm using the old panel, where like the very edge of the old panel, to line it up against, so that I get the datum perfect. Or last time I cut just on the other side of the bend, and it created some issues with getting the shape right, and I ended up having to cut it loose and re-weld it and put spacers in and do a bunch of stuff to try and make up for that, where this time I didn't do that, and it was a lot easier. Now, if you notice, just above where I'm holding right now, there's a big gap, and you just saw me grab a piece of TIG rod, and I went ahead and fit it in there. Now, I had a bit of overlap there, and that was kind of on purpose, so I needed to trim it up a little bit so I can get the right alignment. Now, if you're doing a TIG process, you want to match up the panels almost perfectly, as close as possible, so they're touching. But with the MIG, you can bridge the gap, so you can go ahead and use the death wheel to cut the panels, just like I did there, and it will and again here to get a acceptable gap, and I can then get a perfect alignment across them. Now I'm using the tip of a flat-bladed screwdriver there to try and get the level between the two just right. That should result in the need for a lot less filler down the road. And it's a tedious process of pushing from the outside, pushing from the inside, prying from the inside to get the level. And you check each tack before you do it, and you just gradually work your way through, work your way around. Slow process, but you end up with really good results. If you run your hand over it, it is there's no waves in it, which is really good. I had a few minor waves on the other side that ended up just getting a little bit of body filler to even out. And got to trim it again down at the bottom just to get it perfect, just where I wanted it. Now I'm busy filling my plug welds, my replacement to the pinch welds, working my way up, and it's the trick. You got to be careful not to burn through the thin sheet metal, so it's a lot of little spots, even though I'm using a thin wire and the welder is cranked way down. Here's a little better angle, camera angle, so you can see me doing it. It's zip, zip, zip. And that's a lot of it in a nutshell. Now, here I'm just going through and putting tacks next to the tacks I already did, And this is how you go ahead and do the finish weld. You just keep doing this around and around and around until you've filled up all of the holes all the way around. Just showing this initial pass here. Right after this, I called it a day. Well, there you go. Got it all tacked in. Still have to finish weld it, grind the welds down, go ahead and put some fiber reinforced filler over the welded areas, and then do the final fill with regular old Bondo plastic filler. Pretty straightforward project. Again, it's some of it's a repeat of what I did on the other side. Big thing is I did a slightly different based upon the lessons learned from doing the other side, which is an important part of playing around with this stuff, is always looking the way you've done it and how you would do it next time. So it's going through the learning process. So next time will be probably the Pomona swap meet yet again. That is happening this weekend, and next few days is going to be mostly getting ready for that. But I hope you enjoyed this video. And remember, we are professionals, but not at this. So leave a comment down below on any tips or tricks that you can think of on doing the sort of panel replacement. And as always, like, subscribe, share with your friends, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next adventure. And till the next video, see you then.